This is the Smart Poker Study podcast for players who are always striving to be better today than they were yesterday. Through strategy discussions, Q&As, and Poker Pro interviews, we'll dive deep into everything related to poker tactics, study techniques, and the mental side of the game. All in an effort to improve your skills, maximize your profits, and to make you a lifelong successful player. This podcast is brought to you by SmartPokerStudy.com, and I'm your host, Sky Matsuhashi. Poker people, I know you are interested in starting every day off on the right foot and setting yourself up for success. So make sure you listen to episode 13, where I talked about the miracle morning and how it'll help you accomplish more before 8 a.m. than most people do all day. Hey, poker people, it's day 8 of 30 in a row, and I've got a special show for you today. It's my first podcast interview. Yuppers, normally I run solo. You know, I'm my own man.
You guys might not know this, but I consider myself a bit of a loner. I tend to think of myself as a one-man wolf pack.
But that's all changed today, and I've got an incredible, long-time poker coach as my guest. His name is Al Spath. He's coached over 2,000 people and is currently doing a lot of coaching through Twitch.tv. So as you're listening, you'll hear us discuss an upcoming interview he conducted on Twitch.tv with Cowboy Kenna James. But actually, we recorded this podcast a while ago, and that interview has already aired on Twitch, as well as another one with Poker Pro, author, and coach Gene Hull. You can find links to both of these interviews and a lot more of Al's poker coaching in the show notes at smartpokerstudy.com/14. And without further ado, here's the interview with Al. Okay, poker people, I've got Al Spath on the line with me. He's the former dean at Poker School Online. He writes articles for Ante Up magazine. He posts training videos to YouTube. He streams on Twitch daily and has taught more than 2,000 players. Welcome to the podcast, Al.
Well, thank you, Sky. Glad to be here.
Yeah, great. I really do appreciate it, man. I've been watching a lot of your training, and it's pretty apparent that you do have a ton of hours of training under you with 2,000 players. How many hours would you estimate you've been a coach? Or how many hours have you coached, I should say?
Wow, that's a great question. I started coaching back in the late 90s. Been playing poker all my life, but I started on Poker Pages and PokerSpot, and I really have put in thousands and thousands of hours. When I first started out, and I was goofing off. I mean, I really was taking on too much, and I was saying too much. I was doing too much, and I was really trying to impress some people, and I had to cut back and focus. And my focus has been ever since then on the person at the lower level, the person that's trying to build a bankroll and move on up, because I feel that those are the people most in need. If they get turned off, that there's no feeder system for our whole industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so that's right. And today I probably do, I would say at least 5 days a week, about 3 or 4 hours at minimum of interaction, social media, poker, teaching, videos, things like that.
That's great. That's great. So you said the lower limits. Do you do any live coaching, or is it mostly online players?
I did live yesterday with a player up at Delaware Park. We sit next to each other, and like I was in seat 1, he was in seat 2. And if I'm not in a hand, I ask him to use his left hand and cup it and just look at his cards, where I can just kind of look over and see what he has. I don't say nothing. I keep looking at the pot, and then I see what he bets, if he folds, how he plays the hand, what his line is, what his bet sizing, what he chooses to do. Whereas if we both have a hand, then of course I don't show him, he doesn't show me. We go about our betting. Yeah. And it was 4 occasions that we were in a hand together, and on 3 of the occasions I laid my cards down face up, saying, "You've got King Queen, you've got King Jack, you've got..." Every one of my reads was exactly right. I mean, per card was actually right. And he just said, "How can you see into my cards?" I said, "Well, that's the art of putting players on hands." And he just was amazed as I was putting other players, and we weren't involved in hands. I was putting players on hands as we went along and everything. He wound up winning about $250, and I lost about $35. Oh, so he did much. The deck hit him like crazy, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So that's how we do lessons. Then we talk away from the table about specific hands and bet sizes and things like that.
Gotcha. So one of those live lessons, are you guys sitting down together for about an hour, and then you get up and go have lunch or something for 30 minutes or an hour and talk about the hands?
Well, we sat for 3 hours yesterday.
Okay.
Normally I do 2 hours for my sessions, But no, we every half hour or so, if there was a couple of key hands, I might get up and go to the restroom, and then on my way back, he'll be getting up, going, and we'll stop and we'll just talk about those hands and stuff like that. There's no collusion, there's nothing like that going on or anything.
Yeah.
It's just if he's in a hand, I'm watching to see so I can talk to him later on about what he did or why did you do this. And in one particular case, I asked him, I said, did you notice the player in seat number 10? He said, what? And I said, did you see his hand shaking when he was betting? He said, no, I didn't see that. I said, watch his hand, and when he shakes, I said, he's got a big hand. He's so excited about it, he can't hold the tremors down.
Yeah.
So a couple of hands later, the guy was in a hand with me, and he had a big hand. Well, I happened to hit a card that made my hand, and I bet, and he stood there, and the shaking stopped and everything, and no bet, and I took down the pot. But all of a sudden, his big hand went to second best hand, and he knew enough to get out of it, but he couldn't stop the shakes.
Yeah, that's
so I
great.
try to point out tells at the table as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, so physical tells, along with reading their bet sizing and reading just the way they're playing their cards, gives you a lot of information about what they're holding.
Absolutely. One guy that was betting with me on one particular hand, he bet out what looked like the smallest bet. It wasn't a min raise, but it was just like a quarter of a size. I said to myself, the alert went off that he doesn't have much anything. So we went all the way to the river, and it got, it was $85 and $95. It was some big betting going on, but by the time the river came, a card came that looked like it filled me up. It looked like I hit a set and then made full house and counterfeited his flush. He finally threw it in and everything, but when it was over, my client, he came to me, he says, you got that all from that first bet, didn't you? I said, yep.
Yeah.
I said, yep. The first bet told me everything I needed to know.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I haven't been a live player for a long time. I just kind of graduated to online and just stayed there. I find that I'm able to play so many more hands, and it's a little bit more exciting playing online than live. What would you recommend for beginning players who are just getting into poker? Should they spend their time online or live? Where should they spend most of their time?
Well, I would never go live unless I have read certain books. I wouldn't go live anymore. Now, with the video libraries that are available on YouTube, and I have over 150 videos, and they're all free.
Yeah.
And other people have tons of videos. Go watch the videos. Don't spend money on a coach or anything like this. If you really don't know what you're doing, read a basic book, get some understanding, go into the free play, test it out. You're not going to make any money there, but you're going to find, and you're going to get a bunch of people that are playing crazy. But get the feel for it, and then ask some questions, and watch these other videos of real live play, and then jump in at the bottom level, and then start working on eliminating some of the mistakes. Okay. That's where I would start.
Yeah. What are some of those big mistakes that beginning players, or just even low level players who've been playing for a long time, what are some of their big mistakes?
First mistake, they play too many hands.
Yep.
First mistake is they play way too many hands. Beginning players should play between 10 and 14% of the hands that they're dealt. So you figure once around the table they should be involved, but they're playing upwards of 2 or 3 hands every 10 hands. So they're playing 25 to 30 range, and they should be down in the 10, maybe the 10 to 15 range at the most. Second thing is they have no understanding of position. So when they're in early position, they're playing limp call type poker, which is not aggressive poker. You don't learn anything when you limp, and you don't learn anything when you call. When you raise and you have position, listen to the things that you get from a raise. First off, you tell everybody how good your hand is. You tell them that it's strong. So you identify the strength of your hand. Second is you put money into the pot. Third is you eliminate players. Okay? Fourth is anybody that calls or re-raises you identify the strength of their hand. Then again, on the flop, you get to continuation bet. You get to maybe even bet, if you have 1 or 2 opponents, again, a barrel on the turn and win the pot. So you can win all these different ways. You get all these money. You get all these people out. But if you call or you check, you get none of that.
None of that at all. Yeah, you're just relying on hand strength.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. So out of these two big issues, playing too many hands and then calling, not being aggressive enough, the first one, playing too many hands, how do you break an opponent of playing too many hands? I mean, you often get guys who look down early position, Jack 9 suited, that's great, I can make flushes, I can make straights, I'm going to play. How do you break them of playing too many hands?
Well, myself, I like to limit it to group 1, group 2 hands, depending on the position. I try to make them play really tight at first, and it's very difficult for somebody that's really loose. It's very difficult for somebody that just is what we might call a maniac. They just like to play for fun. They like to play for entertainment. They can't sit there with their hands under their butts or anything. They like to get involved. They like to make things. I want to bust this guy with my 7-2 suited. I'll just show him how good I am and stuff like that. But you got to start out. And I like to start out with people telling them, if you're going to play, you got to raise. If the hand's not good enough to raise, I don't want you playing the hand. So if you got ace king, you got ace queen, if you've got pocket kings, pocket queens, I want you to raise, and I want you to raise the right amount. I want to teach them what the right amount is to raise in a particular hand. And I want them to throw those hands that are very hard to play, the 7, even though they're money makers later on, and I'll teach it, the 7-8 suiteds and the 10 jacks and the ace 7 suited and the small pocket pairs. I'm going to teach that later on. In the beginning, they need to start out with big hands, good hands, and play them aggressively. Isolate and dominate. I want them to learn 2 words. Isolate an opponent and dominate the person. You've got to get the person out, and you got to get them bending to your needs, okay? And that means that you got to put bets against them, and you got to make them feel the pressure.
Yeah.
You can't pressure 4 or 5 people. Someone's going to stick around and beat you, especially when you have ace king and you've hit nothing and you try to continuation bet. Someone's going to get you. But if you're against one person or 2 and you continuation bet, the likelihood of eliminating one of them or both of them is very good. So you can win when you don't hit, and you can win when you do hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that how you kind of break them of getting into the habit or being in the habit of calling and checking too much too? Just explaining the additional ways that they can win by being aggressive?
Well, I demonstrate it to them first. A lot of times when I'm working with a client, there are times where I will just play the first time, and I will show them and demonstrate to them, I want you to play this way, and I'm going to show you. And I play like them without playing my 5-6 suiteds and things like that. And I said, now watch me and see how I do during this session, how I get away from hands, how I capitalize on my hands. So I demonstrated for them. And maybe even halfway through, I say, okay, now it's your turn. You sit at the table. I'll watch you and see if you get the hang of it. And we're doing this maybe, and I don't do it anything lower than 5 cents, 10 cents, because anything below that, it's, people, they can't bring enough money to the table for it to care. But at least it's 5 cents, 10 cents. They got $10. Some people have some respect for the money. Yeah. And then as you go up, it's a lot easier putting players on hands and playing the game. But I start out at nickel dime. And for anybody that's out there that's listening to your podcast, if you go to my YouTube channel, just start out at the nickel dime and just keep watching those till you're ready to move up to 10 cents, 25 cents.
Yeah. Don't
jump fast.
Yeah, and I can actually recommend that as well. I've watched a few of your 510, or one 510 video, but then I've watched a lot of your 1025 and some of your 2550 NL videos too, and that's great stuff. I've definitely learned a lot from them. So I want to thank you also just for myself for putting those free videos out. Those are amazing.
I appreciate it. I like to put a lot of time. My passion is to teach. I'm a teacher who plays poker, not a poker player that teaches.
Gotcha. Yeah, a good distinction right there. You're the kind of coach that most players would probably prefer, someone whose passion is in teaching, and with a side passion in poker, I guess.
Well, yeah, I play myself. I play often, and I love to play, but I love to teach poker, and I love to impact the community the best way I can.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I know that you also do a ton of Twitch streaming. Is that how most of your coaching sessions take place, or do you kind of coach outside of Twitch? You just play a game, online through Skype. You're sharing your screen. Is that how most of your coaching sessions go?
Most up until this year have all been on Skype, only Skype, and just myself and the client. Mm-hmm. But this year, excuse me, I've got a cold. This year, since I started streaming, I've asked the client, do you want this to be up on YouTube? Do you want to see how somebody else is seeing how you're progressing and things like that? If they say no, then I just record it and give them a copy of it. And if they want it up on YouTube, I put it up on YouTube. They have the choice themselves. And if we do a session and they feel awful about it, and they say, you know what, I know we streamed it and a lot of people seeing it, but I don't want other people seeing it. I just feel like I made, and there's only been one occasion of that, and I didn't post it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a student of that myself who just did not want the world to know, not even his screen name. They didn't want anything to know that this guy's been, or he didn't want anybody to know that he's been getting any coaching whatsoever. Yeah, so I had to keep it off of YouTube as well.
I forgot I had this hat on today. I'm indoors and everything, but this was my shout out and salute to the firemen and police department up in New York City. This is a 9/11 hat. And of course, I'm a New York Yankee fan. So I was doing some promos earlier today.
Oh, okay.
I've got Kenneth James coming on this Sunday on the Sunday Conversation.
That's right. Your Sunday Conversations, yeah.
12 Eastern, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that's going to be on Heartbeat Poker, although my channel on Twitch is Al Spath, no spaces in it.
Yeah, so twitch.tv/Al Spath is your channel, and the Heartbeat Poker channel, that's where you normally do your Sunday Conversations, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Great. And I remember you telling me via Skype a couple days ago that not only do you have Cowboy Kenneth James coming up, but you have Ed Miller. I think you might have mentioned Jonathan Little and a few other famous coaches out there coming up on your show.
I've got Jonathan Little. I've got Gene Hull, a coach in Las Vegas. Brad Wilson. I've got Steve Daneman, Matt Savage. A lot of people. Yeah.
Great. I'm looking forward to that.
I know him from the industry. I've already done sessions with Alan Schoonmaker and Matthias Anderson, Donna Blevins, and last week Paul Otto, the internet specialist from over in Poker Market in Europe.
Yeah, I actually listened to that one. That was the first one I listened to, and that was a pretty darn good episode. That guy, especially when it comes to GTO, he seems to really know his stuff.
He knew it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, without a doubt. Some of the stuff he said went over my head, and I just got to kind of accept his word for it, until I can take the time to do a little bit more study myself.
I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when it comes to Twitch, what's the best way for a student of yours to learn from your Twitch, or not even a student of yours, just for somebody watching Twitch, what's the best way to learn from your Twitch streams?
Well, the best thing I can suggest, if somebody's new to poker, they go up to YouTube, they subscribe to my channel, it's free, Al Spath, 2 words, and they start out with the nickel dime stuff, and they watch it, and they just watch it, listen, and learn. Then they start all over at the nickel dime, and they go back through, and then they stop the video before I say something. So I get my cards. I want them to look at the table. I want them to think, okay, what would I do? What not only was Al going to say, but what should Al be thinking, or what should I be thinking in the same situation? Would I fold here? Would I bet? Would I re-raise? How much would I bet? Then play it and see if it works out. See if I bring up the same things that they're thinking. See if they get in the same line of thinking. It can always be different. There's different tacks that somebody could take, different lines. But they should see and use that stop button to see if they're on the same page. But don't do it the first time going through, because you need to absorb everything and listen to everything and learn so much. But the second time you go through, then when you go to 10 cent 25, you can start out doing the 10 cent 25 exactly that way. You don't have to go through them all. Just start out with the 10 cent 25 and say, okay, here's a hand. Al just got ace king in an early position. Stop. I think Al's going to bet the pot. I think Al wants to reduce the field. I think Al wants to get it heads up here. And if nobody calls, Al's willing to take down the blinds with this hand. Then play it and see how it turns out. And let's say 2 people call and the flop comes, stop it again. Say, okay, now the flop has an ace on the flop. And so I think Al's going to continuation bet, but I don't think he's going to try to push everybody out, so he's going to bet 3/4 of the pot. Try to think about what you're seeing and what you should be thinking. And that's how you play the videos and get the most out of the videos.
Nice. That's actually some really good advice. I'm going to have to remember that for my own students. That's awesome right there. So speaking of students, do you have any, you don't have to mention any names, of course, but do you have any crazy success stories, like a guy that you just started off, he was losing money at 5 cent, 10 cent, and now he's playing $1, 2, 3, 6, 5, 10 or something like that?
Well, over the years, I've had lots of students. I like to tell new clients all the time, I don't have a losing student. If they stick to the gun and they meet me halfway, only the ones that meet me halfway, they do the reading, they do the videos, all of a sudden it clicks in and they get it, and then they start winning and they do fine. Mm-hmm. I guess I've had a couple of success stories of sorts that people have called me up. This one guy in Florida, Mike, he goes by the name Spider. He was playing, and I taught him online, and he was playing a local casino, and he was doing pretty good there. And then one day he said, "Hey Al, I'm going to the World Series. I'm going to play in the 1500 buy-in no limit tournament." He said, "What can you tell me to do?" So I went over what I wanted him to do and how I wanted him to play one table at a time and not worry about things. Mm-hmm. He said, "Well, there'll be a lot more than the 95 people I play at this Greyhound Park down in Florida, won't there?" I said, "Yeah, there'll be a few more." So he gets to Vegas and he calls me up on the phone. He says, "I'm going to kick your ass, Al." I said, "What's wrong?" He says, "There's 3,500 people. It's the largest tournament ever had at WSOP." I said, "How many people are going to be at your table?" He said, 9 others. I said, "All right, then deal with the 9 others.
Yeah.
You don't have to deal with 3,500. That'll take care of itself. Mm-hmm. Just play smart, play position, be aggressive, and don't be behind in hands. Be ahead. Make people have to chase you down." Mm-hmm. So I get a call at night. I think it was like, 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast time. He says, "I'm in 185th place. We're breaking for the night. I'm in the money, and I can't believe it. I played everything the way you told me to play it. I played everything smart. I never was behind in one hand, and tomorrow I'm going into it with a chance to really move up." So the next day he calls me. He says, "I got knocked out 165th, but it wasn't my fault. I was ahead with a pair of jacks, and a guy spiked a king on the river, and he beat me. I have no problems with that. I'll take my I think he paid $1,500. I think he made I think his payday was like $6,000. So he made like $4,300 on the thing, and he was really happy. And so that was a really good success story. And then this one lady out in California, and she was one of these loose players. She came to me just before she went to Vegas to play in a ladies event. And she said, "All right, I'll work with you." And I was trying to tell her, "You can't play that. You can't play that." And she said, "I can't play that way." I said, "You got to play that way." Well, she said, "I'll try." Well, I got a call. My wife and I were sitting on the couch. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And she's screaming on the phone. I said, "What happened? What happened?" She said, I knocked out Linda Johnson. I knocked out Susie Isaacs. I knocked out every one of these people I knocked out. I got bounties of $200. I won a cruise. I won a TV.
Holy cow.
And then I won the tournament. I won everything. I won a $10,000 entry into the World Series of Poker and everything. I said, "Oh, that's pretty cool. That's
Great.
pretty cool."
Yeah, do you find a lot, I know that right now at least you're coaching a lot of cash mostly. Do you find that a lot of cash skills translate over to tournaments as well?
No. And I think same thing. Tournament players, I think cash players can make better tournament players, but I think tournament players make worse cash players because they have a mindset where tournaments where the blinds are always rising and chips are always being depleted and new players are coming in and you're moving. Whereas when you play cash games, things are standard. The blinds don't go up. People don't come in and out as much. You can get more tells and readings on people.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you do much tournament coaching right now, or is it just 100% cash?
No, I do a little bit, but it's really cost prohibitive to the person in the tournament because to hire me for 3 and 4 hours for an MTT is ridiculous. If I want to do a sit and go, I can teach them, the beginning, the start, and the end, and what they should do, and we can cover a lot of ground in that area. Or I would prefer to do like a 12-man or an 18-person tournament because that would take about 2 hours or so. But there's not a lot of those on some of the sites that are readily available to us. Mm-hmm. So I stick away from that and mostly concentrate on cash.
All right. Well, great. Well, that's been awesome. Thank you very much for all the information, Al. I do have 5 more quick-fire poker questions for you. Are you ready?
Shoot.
All right. How much time do you devote to poker every day, whether it's coaching, playing, reading, studying, whatever?
I'm gonna say between 3 and 5 hours, and it depends on whether or not I get a book to review. I just reviewed Jonathan Little's book. I just reviewed 2 for Alan Schoonmaker, and I did the course, which is a great book from Ed Miller, which was a couple of months ago. And they all are appearing in Ante Up magazine.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm actually in the process of reading the course right now, and I think it's an incredible book. Yeah, good. So, number 2, do you have any poker goals for 2016?
Well, my goals strictly are centered on the client and the player that comes to me. I want to make everybody that comes to me successful, happy, enjoy the game, so that they can go out and they can either profit from it or they can turn around and teach it to somebody else.
All right, yeah. So your goal is to make your clients the best possible players they can be.
That's where my focus is. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, next question. What one poker strategy book would you recommend to the listeners?
Tournaments would be Winning Tournaments One Hand at a Time. It's published by Dymat Publications, Matthew Hilger. It has Ape Styles, Pearl Jammer, and I forget, it's Ed Lynch and a few others. And I've had them on my podcast when I did Rounders Radio. But that's the best. It's a 3-volume book. First volume takes you down to the bubble. The next one takes you from the bubble to first place. And the third is heads-up play and some things that they didn't discuss in the other 2 books. It has illustrations. Each person gives you their perspective at the table of the same hand. So you hear from 3 people what's going on, and most of it's online play, so it's very, very good. And then Matthew adds his comments every now and then. That's the best volumes that you should have for your tournaments. Cash, Ed Miller book is fantastic. I really wouldn't want to recommend anything else for anybody else. If they're starting out, they've got to go get some beginner books, of course, but the course is most excellent.
Great. Thank you for those. And for the listeners, I'll have shown or links to all of those things within the show notes for this episode, so you can find those there. The next question, is there another coach or pro that you're following or learning from yourself?
Well, I don't have enough time to do those things. I watched, I think his name, Jay Carver, the other day. I think he has, I can't remember his screen name.
Jason Somerville. Jay Carver is his screen name.
That's it. And I've been watching Brad Wilson over at, I think it's Your Poker Edge.
Enhance Your Edge.
Enhance Your Edge. And I've found he's playing a lot of 3-6 and some 2-4, no limit. And it's interesting to me to see what he's talking about there and how he handles things, but not too many others. I don't really have the time for it, and I'm a pretty busy guy.
Gotcha. Okay,
I didn't want to be busy today, you know?
Yeah. All right, final question. If there's one poker skill or idea or concept that every poker player needs to have to be a success, what is that one thing?
Well, it's going to be a one thing with a slash, okay?
Okay.
It's going to be position, okay? They have to understand and utilize position, and the slash is aggression, okay? So use your position and be aggressive. And that's entirely can take you to the newest level in poker, from here up to here right away. If you use your position like locate, just like in real estate, location, position. You want position A, you want to be on that button. You want to, if you're not on that button, you want to be able to get everybody out between you and the button so that you're the final person to act. The final person to act always has the advantage in this game, and you can win without having the cards to win with. And you have to be aggressive and to assert yourself to get that position. So you combine those two. It doesn't matter what your cards are. You're still going to do okay. And if you get good cards, you're going to do damn well.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you for all that advice, and thank you for your time again today. I'm sure it was very beneficial for the audience, and I know that I got a ton out of it as well. So I really do appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Anytime. You've got it down, and I like what you're doing, and I think you're going places. You're one of the guys to watch out there, so I'm impressed, and I hope your listeners will tell some of their friends to follow you.
I hope so, too. Thank you much. But what's the best way, before I let you go, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you or to check out your free training materials or to contact you to be their coach?
Well, they can contact me at alspath@alspath.com. That's really easy to remember. They can go up to YouTube, as I said, Al Spath, 2 words, and just subscribe and watch some of my videos. Then they'll find out for themselves whether I'm the coach. I do a free 30-minute interview with every client I get. I want to know where they've been, what they're doing currently, what they've read, what their problems in their mind are, and what their strengths are. I want to find out what I can do for them. If it's not a fit, I'll refer them to somebody else. And if it's a fit, then we'll go from there. And if they mention your name on a promo, I'll give them a discount.
Awesome. Well, all the listeners out there, I'll have that in the show notes for you, all of Al's contact information, so you can get a hold of him. Get a discount by mentioning my name. That's awesome. Thank you very much for offering that, Al. I appreciate it. And great. Anything else that we didn't talk about that you'd like to discuss?
No, just tune into the Sunday Conversation. You'll hear some important poker information from a lot of good pros. That's Sunday at either 10 or 12 o'clock Eastern. Each week it depends on what part of the country the guest is coming from. For the next 2 weeks, it's at 12 noon. So that'll be on Heartbeat Poker for now. And so check me out there.
Perfect. I'll be there as well. Thank you very much, Al, and have a good day.
All right. Take care, Sky.
Take care.
All the
Bye.
best.
I'd like to once again thank Al for joining me for my first interview. You can find everything that Al and I discussed today in the show notes at smartpokerstudy.com/14, so head on over. And if you contact him for coaching, let him know Sky sent you for a discount. And of course, thank you all for listening. Send me your constructive feedback through the show notes page, or you can email me to sky@smartpokerstudy.com, tweet me at smartpokerstudy, or post in the Facebook group at smartpokerstudy.com/discuss. And I need your questions. Please send them in for the Friday Q&As. Plus, if you've got an idea for a podcast topic you'd like me to discuss, I'd love that as well. And here is another iTunes review from a very, very nice listener named Mercy K. She says, fascinating, 5 stars. I listened to the episode about the one thing, wouldn't have thought to apply that to poker. Sky is a super engaging host, and he suddenly made being a poker player seem very doable, which is a humongous feat in my case. Can you say subscribed? Thank you so much, Mercy K. I totally appreciate that awesome review. So, and also for everyone else, please subscribe to the Smart Poker Study podcast through your favorite podcast app. And also remember the contest we're putting on. Tweet me your review through iTunes, or you can email it to me, and you'll be entered into a drawing for 1 free hour of coaching. Please get that review to me by January 31st to be eligible. I'll announce the winner on February 1st's episode. Alrighty, poker people, be sure to listen to tomorrow's episode number 15, where I discuss how I keep track of my studies, tilt, and anything else poker related by using a poker journal. Word of mouth is the best advertising, and a recommendation from you to one of your friends is super appreciated. If you enjoyed our time together and learned a little something, please share it with somebody. Until next time, study smart, play hard, and make your next session the best one yet.